Hello, friends, and welcome to Today in the Word. I am the managing editor of this daily devotional that's published by Moody Bible Institute. Before we start, please subscribe to this channel. It really helps get the word out about our devotional, and like it if you like the content. Today, we have an interesting subject. Did you know, or maybe you did and you haven't thought about it a lot, that Jesus had brothers? Actually, they were half brothers. And they authored two books of the Bible in the New Testament. So this month, that is the focus of our study, the books of James and Jude. We have with us our devotional author, Dr. Eric Moore, who is Professor Emeritus at Moody Bible Institute. Welcome, Eric.
Well, it is good to be with you again, Jamie.
It's always good to have you. And I always really appreciate your devotional insights. And you tell some great stories along the way, too. So I like that.
Well, it's fun. I enjoy doing it.
Yeah. So we're digging into this. You came to me with this idea and you said, let's look at the two books by Jesus' brothers. And for a moment, I was taken aback because I didn't really think about it that way. But what gave you that idea to put those books together?
Well, actually, at my church, I pastor and I preach. And so just preaching through the different books of the Bible, I remember preaching James and focusing on the fact that he's Jesus' half brother. And I remember preaching Jude and I'm thinking, oh, this is Jesus' half brother. And I started thinking, wow, there's a lot of similarities and differences, just like there are differences in siblings, but there is this continuity. And I just thought this might be an interesting study.
Yeah. So I hope that everybody appreciates this approach, which I haven't done before myself. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about these two brothers, some background.
Well, we don't have a whole lot in the Gospels regarding them, but we do we do know this is that they did not believe in Jesus. They did not believe that he was who he said he was. They were somewhat critical of him. Um, and the Bible tells us that they didn't believe, but I don't know to what extent they didn't believe, but I don't believe that they thought he was the Son of God, that he was the Messiah.
But they do come around, right? Because they both start their letters a similar way, where they're giving a nod to Jesus, right?
Right. I think the key thing is his resurrection.
Hmm.
That one of the things that we see is that when Jesus resurrected from the dead, of course, he wanted to see his disciples, but also specifically in First Corinthians, it says that he wanted to see James.
Hmm. Yeah. So suddenly you have this big 180 really and I'm sure it was challenging, right? They grew up alongside of Jesus. They were in the same house, ate meals around the table. Maybe I don't know if Jesus would bicker with his brothers, but they did all the things siblings do, and yet suddenly this is not just a brother, it's the Son of God.
Right, right. You think about it, right? There's what is that phrase? Familiarity breeds contempt. I'm sorry.
Contempt.
But yeah, yeah. And so it's not that they saw him do anything wrong, but maybe, just maybe, he was too perfect.
Yeah.
Right? He does everything right. He does everything on time. He always says the right thing. And so there may be
Yeah.
this internal jealousy that they have towards him. The Bible doesn't really say, but we can speculate just having grown up in our own families.
That's true. We titled it Brothers Who Believed with that emphasis because they no doubt do believe. By the time we get these letters they were written in the New Testament, they were solid. And you can hear that in their words, the deep-seated conviction they now have. So it's an encouragement, right? Even for those of us who might have siblings that don't believe, that we keep praying.
That's right. That's right. We never know. Just like in this case, we can point back to the fact that Jesus resurrected from the dead and went looking for James. But in all of our lives, there are these moments, right? And so we pray for those moments. We pray that God would intervene in our loved one's life in some type of way that gets their attention, and they will put their
Mhm.
faith in Jesus.
Yeah. So we're starting with the book of James in the study. Maybe you could give us a little context to that. Who was James writing to?
Yeah, he's writing to the believing Jews that are, he says they are dispersed. And so these would be Jews who have come to faith in Jesus Christ, and yet they're scattered all throughout the region. And so he's not writing, as we see in Paul, normally he is writing to a specific person or a specific church. James is kind of writing to the general Jewish population who have put their faith in Jesus.
Okay. And he talks a lot about, I like this book of the Bible. He talks a lot about putting our faith into action.
Mhm.
And I think that really strikes to us because we put a lot of emphasis on faith itself, of course, but how it lives out. Maybe give us a little preview of that. What is he touching on?
Yeah, so we talk about orthodoxy, that we want to have the right beliefs, right? But this is more orthopraxy, where it's the correct practice. How do we live out our faith? And I think that's one of the challenges with the book of James, because he's so practical,
Mhm.
he's so focused on holy living and righteous living, that there's even some controversy as to, is he really preaching about teaching about works, or is he talking about
Mhm.
faith? But when you get to the bottom of it, he's really talking about living out one's faith, and it's not about working to earn
Mm.
any type of rightful standing before God. It's no, because we have this rightful standing with God, we should live this out before people and even in our private life.
Yeah, and he touches on all kinds of areas that I think get down to the nitty gritty. One of them I think is particularly relevant today, and that's our speech. If you go on social media at all, you've seen all kinds of ugliness, right? We can get pretty harsh the way we talk. Why does it matter how we speak as Christians? What is James? Why does James hone in on that?
Well, I think a lot of it is what is generating, what is producing you to be so harsh, and to be so angry, right? We can be upset about unrighteous cause. We can be upset about it, but we don't have to respond the same way an individual attacked us. We need to respond with gentleness and kindness, the fruit of the spirit. And so, what we see a lot of times on social media or on TV, these individuals, maybe they don't know the Lord. Maybe some of them do, but you don't see that kindness. Whereas, okay, I will listen to you, and then I will respond based upon what you said, and I will respond in a kind way. Usually
Mhm.
we're just waiting for the other person to pause in their conversation so we can tell them what we believe and why we believe it, and we can even say it in such a tone that it actually repels the other person.
Hmm. Yeah, and there's power in our words. I love a lot of his imagery. He uses a spark. Tongue is like a flame. It's a spark that sets a whole forest on fire,
For
right?
sure, for
So,
sure.
and we all have had words said to us that we've had a hard time forgetting,
Right.
or probably have spoken words that others have a hard time forgetting. And so, just good caution there.
Yeah, I was talking to a guy actually today, and he was telling me about growing up and how his dad was extremely hard on him. And he was saying now, some 20 years later, he's still dealing with those verbal scars that he had. And so, yeah, just that old saying, "Sticks and stones might break my bones, but words will never hurt me." I mean, that's that's the furthest thing from the from the truth. I might break my bone and it heals and I'm okay, but that those words, they stick in my soul, and I may
Hmm.
carry them for the rest of my life.
That's so true. What is a takeaway you hope readers get from this study?
Well, I hope they see this is not a book to be, or a letter to be afraid of. He's not talking about trying to live the perfect life. You
Hmm.
could read that and say, "Oh man, I should never say anything wrong. Oh, I should never show any type of. Oh, I should never do these type of things." But that's the ideal. But really what James is trying to say is that should not characterize our life. Our life should be one of faith. And one of the things I just wanted to share this with you, if it's okay,
Mhm.
is that this brother thing is that if you read the book of James and you keep Jesus' Sermon on the Mount on one side, you start to see that James was listening.
Mm.
Even though he may not have believed, he was listening to his older brother. Because when you go through the book of James, you start to say, "Oh, Jesus referenced it, said this in Sermon on the Mount. Oh, Jesus said." There's a number of
Mm.
things where you can trace James's explanation back to the Sermon on the Mount. And so you see, yeah, they definitely were brothers, and James was listening, even though at the time he may have been rejecting what Jesus had to say.
Wow, that's really interesting. I'm going to keep an eye out for that. Good. Well, we also, as I've mentioned before, we do have a family study with this, and I think you will enjoy going through this with your children as well. There's some really great practical lessons in this book that will impact them and be easy for them to understand. So thank you, Eric. Thanks for writing this, and we look forward to studying with you this month and talking to you again.
Sounds great, Jamie.